Hey guys, welcome back. So today we got a PowerStroke generator, and this one was put up for sale for $1. So it didn't take long for me to get it here, and there's a bit of a story on this machine. About a year ago, the previous owner had to buy a new gas tank because the old one was rusted out. And if you've ever priced a gas tank out, they are quite expensive. They start at about $200. She said she spent about $400, which is the price of the tank, and to pay someone to do it. So anyway, they lost power recently. Of course, the machine would not start. They were fed up with it and put it up for sale for $1. So here it is. And I can pretty much guarantee you that it's a water problem again. They stored this outside, from what I could tell, uncovered, and it wouldn't start. And the design of this tank is such that, and really all tanks, they kind of have this trough here around the fuel cap, and when it fills up, if you leave it outside unprotected, this is just going to fill up with water, and it goes over the top of this fuel cap. And if this thing isn't perfectly sealed, water's going to get in. And given how it was stored, I would almost guarantee there's water in here again. I haven't checked the tank. I haven't checked for compression. Honestly, I really didn't care. The price was right. So I'm going to pop that fuel cap off and just see what's going on in there. And you can see the tank doesn't look rusted at all. The fuel color isn't great, but I do see the problem already. See that line? That is probably water. So if I give this generator a little shake, see it? That's water. That's a lot of water. It doesn't take much to prevent a machine like this from running, and it only takes about maybe a tablespoon or two, just enough to get about halfway up the carb bowl, and once it hits that point, it will not start. Water is heavier than gas, and the intake for the emulsion tube and the main jet's usually toward the bottom, and the engine can't suck the water through the carburetor. So once it's there, it's there. You can drain this one. Luckily it has a drain bolt on the bottom, but given the amount of water in that tank, we're going to have to drain the tank, dry the tank, and obviously drain the carburetor. Most likely that carb was serviced when the tank was replaced, so hopefully we don't have to do that again. But that's probably all it needs, is just flushing out the water, and this thing should come back. So let's find out. All right, so I'm just going to start by pulling the water out of the carburetor. Yeah, that's not good. That could be rust. At a minimum, it's bad fuel. Let me flush this out a bit, and I'll try, once I get the tank cleaned out, I will try starting it like this, but I have a feeling that carb's gonna have to be pulled. All right, so to get the gas out, I'm just gonna pull the fuel line off that carburetor and drain it. Yeah, so that fuel valve is not fully shutting off that fuel. All right, so I'm just gonna pop that bowl off and see if that was rust on the bottom or just bad fuel. I mean, judging by the smell, I'd say it's bad fuel. Hopefully the rust is limited. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The color inside's a bit odd, but it's not rust, so we should be pretty good. I am gonna I'm probably gonna leave good enough alone and try to run it like this. I see no signs of debris, no signs of rust, so with any luck this carb will be good to go. Okay, so the tank is empty. This fuel shut-off switch is not completely shutting it off, so I was going to add, kind of an inline switch down here. And in doing so, I decided to replace the fuel line because this stuff is getting pretty brittle. And while I was putting on the new fuel line, I noticed something bouncing around down here. And that's the linkage, as well as the spring. Completely disconnected from that carburetor. So I have no idea what the story is on that. It's probably a good thing the generator did not start for the seller because it would have accelerated out of control. So I'm just gonna get that linkage hooked back up. I'll finish the fuel, running the new fuel line, and then we'll bring it outside and see what it does. Much better. Okay, so it's more or less put back together. Not that much had to be taken apart. Fuel tank was drained, carb drained, fresh gas put in, new fuel lines, new fuel shut off, and of course reconnected the governor linkage, which for some reason was disconnected. So I did check the oil. Yes, there is oil. It looks fairly clean. So I think we're ready to bring this thing outside and see what it does. Okay, finally a nice day. I'm going to try firing this up and see what it does or does not do. Okay, so this one seems to be similar to the Ryobi one I was working on, and I thought the governor was bad. When there's no load, this thing accelerates pretty fast. It was getting up to 70 hertz. I don't know what that translates into for RPM, but it's about, I'd say it's about 20% faster engine speed than it should be. And that probably translates into like 4,500 RPM instead of 3,600. So I don't see an adjustment for the throttle spring. I mean, ideally, I would dial, I guess, the governor spring back a little bit. So I'm going to look into that. I'd feel better if it was at least running closer to, maybe in between 60 and dipping to 58 or 57 rather than going up to 70. So let me take a quick look and see what I can find. Okay, so I did back off this idle screw and, you know, trying to get this throttle plate to close better. And you can see that's fully closed. It's not actually closing all the way. It looks like it's hanging up. And that's probably why it's racing out of control. So I'm going to try loosening these screws here and see if I can get this to actually close. The other issue I'm noticing too, the carburetor is leaking a little. So I will have to probably clean this, but let me try fixing this plate first and deal with the cleaning second, because if this doesn't come back, I will probably just buy a new carburetor. Okay, so I just loosened those two screws holding this butterfly on, and then just tried closing it, and finally got it to close and retightened them. So you can see that is a big difference. The other issue too is that I may have put the governor arm on the wrong hole. You probably can't see it. I think the arm's supposed to go on the outer hole, so I'm going to redo that, put it back together, and see what it does. Alright, so I got the carburetor bolted back on, and I couldn't actually move this linkage without taking the gas tank off, so I'm going to leave that for now. I never took this off, so maybe it's factory like this, but I do know on the Ryobi, which is a similar engine, it's out here. But doesn't mean that this one should be. So I'm going to leave this alone. Now that the throttle actually closes all the way, I want to see what it does, and go from there. Alright, so that is running much better. With no load, it's at 62 hertz, which is perfect. Under load, I see the governor arm moving. You know, it's maintaining its engine speed, staying around 60, which is what I'd expect for a 3,000 watt load. You know, so the problem was the throttle plate was stuck and not closing all the way. And that would have destroyed this engine. I mean, it was probably up around 4,500 RPM. And the governor wasn't really responding because it was trying to close and it couldn't. And you know, just loosening those screws on the plate, I was able to kind of recenter it and put it back, and now it does exactly what it should. The engine's actually surging now, which is good, because, well, generally that's not good, but it is good because it's telling me the governor and the governor spring are kind of oscillating back and forth, so they're kind of free to do their thing. And you know, we knew from draining the gas out that the carburetor was probably in bad shape and needed a rebuild, or at least a cleaning. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm not sure if I'll show you that or not. I have a bunch of videos on cleaning a carburetor, so if I don't turn you back on, I hope this helps someone. And if you have a Ryobi generator or a PowerStroke generator and it seems to be running fast, check the throttle plate. I've only serviced 3 of these, and I know one of them for sure has this problem, which is this one. I think the Ryobi, which I thought was a governor problem, I now think is probably the same problem. So that's not a very good track record for these, and I'd advise people to kind of pay attention to their hertz. And the Ryobi and this one both have a gauge to show you the hertz. So turn it to that gauge. If it's above 62, I'd be a little concerned. If it's 63, it's probably okay, but if it's much more than that, you got a problem. And the best way to tell, at least what I did, is I turned that throttle screw, the idle screw, all the way out. And you can't really see it. There you go. Turn this all the way out, and this should have been hitting that screw. So when I go to close it, and it wasn't even getting close. You know, so that tells me there was a problem. I shouldn't say it wasn't getting close, but it should be hitting that screw. So if you suspect this is the problem, take it off, look at the throttle plate. Technically, you don't even have to take this whole thing off. You can just take the airbox off and kind of look down the throat and then actuate this. And you can probably see if it's closing, but maybe not. It is safer to just take it off and look at how it's working. Anyway, I hope this helps someone, and thanks for watching.